What up, everybody? Read Psalms, Mark, Luke, chapters, see Luke, Romans, and Ephesians. I ain't really got no hip hop stuff tonight, but I'll bring it back tomorrow. Yeah, boy, we talk about Solomon, Psalms and Proverbs. While Psalms and Proverbs are awesome, kind of in a little KRS One mode. In a way, Solomon would be like the first rapper before there was rappers. Was Solomon behind the See, King Solomon is also behind like the Psalms and Proverbs. I won't say it's another. Proverbs is so many. Before there was Def Comedy, Def Poetry Jam, Tupac, Nas. There was King Solomon, the first rapper without actually being a rapper. The first ever like storyteller that was King Solomon, the poet, the knowledge dropper, the man with so many poems. The brother spoke a lot of knowledge, poems, poetry. So he's like the forefather of your modern day rap, poetry, and so many different literature. Because he was very smart and God blessed him with wisdom. Your knowledge seeker, the truth teller. Man, so many poems, boy. It wasn't funny. But when you look up the forefather of your modern day poetry, you will find King Solomon. And he wrote so many poetic verses and psalms. Oh yeah, and Ecclesiastes also. So Solomon wrote 18 psalms. One of the apocryphal books of the Psalms of Solomon is a group of 18 psalms, religious songs or poems written in the 1st and 2nd centuries BC. They are not part of any current scriptural canon. They are, however, found in the copies of Speciata de Sagatapint. Solomon also wrote Psalm 72 and Psalm 127. Doggone. Solomon wrote 3,000 proverbs. A very ancient tradition ascribes the Book of Solomon because the very first verses in the book is headed the Proverbs of Solomon. In the first book of Kings, Solomon is said to have written more than 3,000 proverbs and composed 1,000 songs. Man, he wrote 3,000 proverbs. So he's an original songwriter and poet before there was Temptations, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Crucial Doubt, Conflict, Do or Die, Speed, Not Mobsters. There was King Solomon. So technically, Solomon had a history of writing the most psalms, verses, and anything in human history. Hold up. See, which king wrote the most of the psalms? While many of the psalms contain attributions of the name of King David and other biblical figures, which king wrote most of the psalms? While many of the psalms contain attributions of the name of King David and other biblical figures, including Asaph, the sons of Korah, and Solomon, David's authorship is not accepted by most modern Bible scholars, who instead attribute the composing of psalms of various authors written between the ninth and fifth. Never mind, I stayed corrected. I can't say he is. Hmm. Why did Solomon write Proverbs? In written in Proverbs, Solomon hoped that his readers would attain practical righteousness in all things, and that he would do this by living our lives under authority and direction of God. Did Solomon write all the Proverbs? Solomon wrote most of the Proverbs. His name appears at the beginning of three sections of Proverbs. Proverbs 1:1, Proverbs 10:1, and Proverbs 25:1. Thus certifying his authorship. Few of the Proverbs came from other contributors. Anonymous writers contributed Proverbs 22:17 to 24:22. Dang. Here we go. Yo. So he wrote so many proverbs. He would be the definite. So before there was Shakespeare, technically it was Solomon. So basically, he wrote so many poems and songs. It would make Shakespeare and Beethoven them. It would make what they did look like child's play. You know, many people attribute to the Psalms to David, who did the fact right 73 of them. However, there are a total of 150 Psalms and six other identified writers: Apis, sons of Korah, Solomon, Moses, Ethan, and Ezra, and Hinnom and Ezra. There are also 50 announcements written. So, which king wrote many Proverbs? King Solomon. Traditionally, the book of Proverbs was believed to have been written by King Solomon, or at the very least, Solomon primarily. This assumption comes from a variety of factors. King Solomon was known as the wisest man who ever lived. He ruled over the kingdom of Israel after the reign of his father David. How many books did King Solomon write in the Bible? Three books. According to Jewish traditions, King Solomon wrote three books of the Bible: Mishael, Book of Proverbs, and collection of fables and wisdom of life. Call it Ecclesiastes. Mhm. According to the Hebrew Bible, the ancient kingdom of Israel gained its highest splendor and wealth during Solomon's reign of 40 years in a single year. According to King First Kings 10:14, Solomon collected tribute amount of 666 talents, 18,125 kilograms of gold. Solomon subscribed and surrounded himself with all the luxuries and the gratitude of Eastern monarch. In his government proposed, he entered into the alliance with Hiram I, king of Tyre, who in many ways greatly assisted him in the numerous undertakings. For some years before his death, David was engaged in collecting materials such as building temples to Jerusalem, a permanent home for Yahweh, an ark of the name Hiram, other materials sent from David Hiram, and Tyre. After the completion of the temple, Solomon is described in the biblical narrative as erecting many other buildings of importance in Jerusalem. For 13 years, he was engaged in the building of royal palace of Ophir, a hilly promontory in the central Jerusalem. This complex included buildings referred to as house or hall, the forest of Lebanon, the hall of Port's pillar, the hall of the throne, the hall of justice, as well as his own residence and a residence for his wife, Pharaoh's daughter. Solomon's throne is said to have been particularly opulent and possessed. Solomon also constructed great waterworks for the city in the Milo Septuagint Accra of the defense of the city. However, excavations of Jerusalem have discovered no monumental architecture from the era. So no remains of either temple or Solomon's palace have been found. Wisdom. Solomon was the biblical king most famous for his wisdom. And king in First Kings, he sacrificed to God, and God later appeared to him in a dream, asking what Solomon wanted from God. Solomon asked for wisdom in order to better rule and guide his people. Please, God personally answered Solomon's prayer, promising him great wisdom because he did not ask for self-serving rewards like long life or the death of his enemies. Perhaps the best-known story of the wisdom and the judgment is the judgment of Solomon. Two women each laid claim to being the mother of the same child. Solomon easily resolved the dispute by commanding the child to be cut in half and shared between the two. One woman promptly renounced her claim, proving that she would rather give the child up than see it killed. Solomon declared the woman who showed capacity to be the true mother entitled to the whole child. Solomon has traditionally been considered the author of several biblical books, including Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. I think I said it right. I can't really pronounce that one. And the Song of Songs, as well as later apocryphal writings such as the Wisdom of Solomon. Basically, before there was Albert Einstein, that'd be Solomon too. So on the intelligence part, before there was Albert Einstein. See who else? And before there was Darwin, and before there was the likes of what's my man name, Ethan Hawkins, I think. That was King Solomon, one of the wisest of the wise, the true OG of wisdom, true OG of knowledge, the true OG of intelligence. And before this, Beethoven, Plato, Shakespeare. There was King Solomon. one of the first wisest people to ever do it. I remember that story about the woman, like the two women. Well, no, one lied because it was only one mother. So yeah, like he was gonna have the baby sliced in half, basically what I just read. So he gives each one. The true mother say give it to him because the true mother gonna stand out and say gonna protect the baby. So they basically gave the baby. Make a long story short, he didn't slice the baby in half, and they basically gave the baby to the true mother. Basically, if uh if knowledge was power, Solomon would be Superman. But with great powers come great responsibility. But I like how like he didn't do it for like adding extra life or have his enemies destroyed. He wanted to do it to serve God. So that makes him one of the biblical greats to me. But I also like the fact like let's all be real. We all wanted some form of higher not power and knowledge like that. And Solomon was brave enough to ask for it, pray for it. And I guess you can say demand it, but not like in a derogatory, disrespectful way. But he did demand it. But we just say ask for it. And you gotta realize in biblical time, the people lifespans is very longer than ours, different. And their days was let's see, the days was similar to ours, but they no. Let me phrase that. Not the days, their reigns was different. In modern America, the president reign, you would say, or quote reign, as you would say, we would say president leadership would be 4 years. The Bible, I think, you go from 6 years plus. I don't know the exact limitations. I'm gonna have to do some more research on that, but it'll be a lot longer than your average president. I know countries they got prime ministers, they might go 6 years and something. But I know in the Bible it's like the king's reign could be a very long time because you got to realize from the Bible perspective and our perspective, the people lived a lot longer, like saying that 600 plus years. Oldest person in history is Methuselah. But yeah, Solomon was wise, but with that wisdom came some troubles. Like he had multiple wives and messed with the state, messing with other religions. I ain't 100% sure they did ever touch witchcraft, but he did like do other stuff that God went please. But I ain't gonna say, but it still don't really take his name out of history as being one of the greatest minds. One of the greatest minds that ever existed, I would say. Before there was Einstein, Steve Hawkins, Plato, Shakespeare, and so many other brilliant geniuses. Before there was Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, there was Solomon. There was King Solomon, there was Solomon the Great, whatever you want to call him. But he was one of the most brilliant minds you ever think of. I'm trying to fondle my mind around like having that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Intelligence. I'm assuming with that it's kind of it would have been great pressure from women, pressure from men. Well, no pressure from women because you're gonna be one looked upon as a great by the women. They gonna want you, but pressure for men because you can get used back then like you would get used now. Basically, like people want to use you for your intelligence, and plus being a great king. So because ain't no limitations and no decades or nothing for people being used. No, there's always been people that will use someone. So I'm assuming that will come with the price of having that kind of wisdom like that. I mean, so many pressures, man. Because you gotta realize he already got great wisdom, and he a king. That's like two extra pressures. Yeah, that probably would make the average man go crazy. I don't think as much. My theory is not as much carrying great wisdom will make you go crazy, but being a king. 'Cause it's like almost equivalent of being a well, he was a rich man though, but I think it would be like being your modern day Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry. See who else was Steve Jobs and people like that. So you gotta realize with that power, that kind of wealth, people gonna bug you and try to use and manipulate you. Then you got people who actually truly need your help. So you got them two elements. So you gotta realize that's person. I'm not rich yet, but yeah. So I don't know what that person feel like for say, but I'm assuming it's like your regular lifetimes 10. Especially where it wasn't no social media back in the Bible times, but I'm assuming where he wrote on papers or something. And people know his wealth, so he's gonna have the women wanting him and the man trying to bug him, try to use him. I'm assuming there's manipulation back then too. So you gotta be a pretty bold, strong in the mind individual to carry balance being a king and having that wealth and wisdom too. Cause it man, all eyes gonna be on you. Yes, that was Tupac reference. But yet, it's pressure too. Similar Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Steve Harvey, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates go to, but I'll say times 10. Because you gotta realize, like, he also, like, in the biblical times, when you go to war, even I think the king got to be in the front lines too. So he had to go. So he got the pressure of the women, the men, the community, the knowledge, the wisdom, got all that gold, attention. I'm assuming paparazzi back then didn't have cameras. They probably just physically go up to you. Had pins and needles, well, quills and needles. I mean, quills and pamphlets, I think what they would call them. No, quills and scrolls. So I think that's what biblical paparazzi would look like. Then you gotta go to war. Then you gotta have the great mindset to plan, plot, strategize your battles. This ain't like how military is now with atomic bombs, nuclear bombs, like and hydrogen bombs, atomic bombs. It ain't like how military is now with atomic bombs, nuclear bombs, atom bombs, tanks and stuff. They had swords, arrows, and knives, or daggers and shields. So protection was kind of different. So he got to realize he got pressed on that when they go to battle and biblical times like that. Like I'm assuming 3,000 plus men on every side. Then you got that's that pressure. Then you got the pressure of like personal life. I'm assuming. So you had to be a pretty strong, powerful man to be a king back in them times. But Solomon was great enough to do it. He had his flaws, because he's dabbling in other religions and he had multiple women, concubines. I think he was like fell into polygamy. When, he had multiple women, concubines and wives. Like I said, he still served God, but none of the serving was flawless. He still had flaws in it. He was a flawed man, but he still did good by God. He one of the people I look up to in my next, of course, King David, Paul, Peter, of course, Jesus Christ himself. Basically, in the words of the Locks and Lil Kim and DMX, he had to kill. He had to kill. He had money, power, respect. But I'm assuming like even though I don't think the Bible got deep to it, but I think he had foes too. Which of course you're gonna have foes because you gotta realize wealth back then is different than wealth now. I don't think they had like banks in the way we would have. You gotta put yourself in like a different kind of time. They ain't have the technology that we have, the electric technology, electric bank systems and stuff. So they had to put theirs, I think, in the vaults and things back in the biblical time. So you had all eyes watching, and they literally, what's the definition of all eyes on me? Cause I think like if something go wrong, people gonna look at the king weirdly. If things go right, they cheer him. I'm assuming people's fickle then, just like they are now. So you gotta have people to cheer you one minute, boo you the next, that kind of stuff. They can cheer you one minute, then boo you the next. Flip floppy, if you want to say. It's still a quote from John Witherspoon, The Vampire in Brooklyn. Then you had the paranoia of being the king. Like I'm assuming, like I don't know, did it go to Solomon head, but I'm sure. I guess I could read between the lines. He probably had to go to that of wearing like who would kill you at night for your money. You got that pressure of being the king, no matter if it's then or now. For now perspective, it would be considered like watching your friends who flip on you when you get rich. You know, with more money, more problems, as they would say. But more money is good too. I ain't gonna crap on money. Yeah, like more money is bad. I believe it's bad if you use it for badness, and it's good if you use it for good. But I don't care what timeline you are in, no matter if it's a Bible time or if it's now. You know, you still it changes people around you. Money don't automatically change you. It can, but it can. People forgot to give you that quote. It can change people around you too, especially being a king. So everything like that gonna be elevated times 10. But for the most part, Solomon had his mistakes, but I'm not gonna say that's gonna erase the fact that he still did great things for God. He had the faults, but he still had like some good leadership, and he dropped so much knowledge, man. You gotta be a pretty smart, pretty brilliant man to write so many psalms and poems and poetry and songs and things like that. So I can never like take away from the good they did, cause like I say, ain't no one perfect but Jesus, ain't no one perfect but God, ain't no one perfect but the Holy Spirit. But you know, Solomon name is still in history as one of the greats to ever done it. So I give Solomon his flowers. But Solomon is one of my favorite people in the Bible, man. He's just so cool because being a child who like poetry, well, coming from being a child to like poetry to being an adult like poetry. No, I was a child who like poetry, so I gravitated around him. I'll say like next to Jesus, he'd be like the second. Then it'd be Paul. Then I say Pete. It'd be Jesus first, Solomon second, Paul third, and Peter fourth. That's my favorites in the Bible. But there's so many things that you can learn from Solomon, man. It's a lot of reading though. Don't get it twisted now. Them Proverbs and Psalms like pretty long. I forgot which other verses along, which other chapters be long, but it's a lot. I think the longest, I think the longest verse chapter is Proverbs. I'm gonna have to check it out. But no, since no, Solomon he just wanted people. If you really read it, regardless if you're religious or not, you'll learn a lot from that. A whole lot, you know. And I say like all the books of Solomon is like some of the best reading you can read. True, poetic, genius. I'm trying to think, like trying to imagine, like in modern times, what would that be like having that kind of wisdom? I don't think it would be bad having wisdom in modern times, but I think in our timeline, it's different from the Bible. I think it might be a little bit rougher how people treat you having that kind of wisdom. But me personally, honestly, I wouldn't be scared of great wisdom. I would fear the people. Well, I ain't supposed to fear nobody, but I think I have more issues with the people around me over that than having great wisdom. Because I'll probably make something fun out of it. Because that's like a pretty powerful accolade to have, the wisdom, the knowledge, and power. But I think you have to have a humbleness, because no matter if you're in the Bible times or now, having that kind of wisdom Solomon had would be like the ultimate ego boost. So you have to master it, keeping the basically you have to have the elements of humbleness. Then you gotta have to keep on. You gotta realize he had to stay humble, stay on guard, cause deal with pressure, deal with people. So you have to be like a people person to be a king and stuff. Like the elements, man. I don't want to say they was stacked against them, but the elements would be like. See, how can I say this? It'd be like just I don't know. It'd be like our lives be beyond 10, man, times 10. Cause you gotta realize in biblical fighting, we didn't they didn't really have that kind of guards and stuff like in the way we would have it. Military would be indifferent. Then you had like multiple countries that didn't like you, so you look at them elements Solomon had to deal with. Then let's see, medicine and stuff wasn't like it. It ain't like it was is now. So like repairing, like when you got like an army of people and they injured, like dealing with that, dealing with being the first target when you go to battle. Cause I'm assuming, like, I'm not a military man, but I'm assuming like the average enemy is gonna go for like the king first. So you got that element he got to deal with. Then you got like the leadership in general. You got that element, leadership, battles, the wealth. You got to be a pretty strong-minded person, but God seemed fit Solomon to do the job, so he did it. Basically, like The average person, unless you're rich and nowadays couldn't fathom what Solomon had to go through. So many pressures here and there from everybody, your own race, well, a group of people if you want to say. Then you got other people groups. Then you just got like a marriage life because he had multiple women, so you got that pressure. And you got these different elements to pick apart in your life. Then you got like just so many. You got a life above what the average man can even fathom with the wealth, the gold, the richness, the clothes. As in modern terms, the fame. Biblically, they didn't call it fame back then, but today's perspective, we'll call it fame. They they didn't have cameras and stuff, so you can't say lights, camera, action, but I guess you say open curtain, closed curtain from their point of view. A king back then had to deal with what a president had to go through now times 10. So you gotta be all around strong, powerful in all elements, powerful in the mind, powerful in the body, powerful in the soul. But the perks of that, he had like the gold, the horses, the livestock. Cause I think livestock was like also like you had like I'm assuming like goats, cows, and chickens, that typical stuff. That was like they're gonna have that beyond man because they didn't have Bentleys, Hummers, and Bugattis. So they flex as in modern terms would be like having multiple cows and multiple horses, multiple goats, multiple livestock. That would be the closest thing. That'd be the now modern day equivalent to a Bentley, Hummer, Bugatti, a boat if you want to say. Let's see what else would have been their flex, their version of a flex back then. Basically, they flex and our flex was different from what I see. Now one thing I know there's all around, no matter if it's the Bible times now, like jewelry, chains, rings. Now I don't think watch was out in the Bible time yet. That probably was like centuries later. So like that's one flex that still was been out since you want to. I guess you said a dawn of time, the jewelry, of course, diamonds and Rolex. Well, not Rolex, of course, but diamonds and things, gold coins. No, but they've been around for so many times. So I would say, we're saying that I guess you could say like being the king with wisdom and money would be like a blessing and a curse. A little bit of both. Cause you gotta have a special kind of mind just to handle that any kind of thing. Cause then you gotta deal with like the politics. That's another thing. So like a king is all around pressure. So like, man, like the old saying say, it ain't for the weak or have it saying go. I always kind of wondered did Solomon ever have restless nights with that extra wisdom? Because I don't think the Bible ever touched and said he did. But I'm assuming from a perspective, me personally, I don't think having extra wisdom will cause you to have restless nights. I think it's the human element of having to get physical sleep, people wanting to do this and that. The fact you could get used, manipulated. I think that would be the bad part because I don't think wisdom like that would be like a how can I say this? That wouldn't be a pressure. At least how I feel personally. That's just my personal opinion. Because I never felt like having intelligence would be pressure. Maybe that's just my way of thinking. Because I always view intelligence as very awesome. I think it's the human elements of what I would view in my personal life as the pressure part. Because intelligence is, to me, is like a beautiful thing. It's a bliss. So I'm assuming that it's all in my mind. It would too, you know. Because I ain't never been a king. I never was born in biblical times. So I'm trying to mix it to y'all. And what would that be like in modern times? Back then you didn't really have, you had queens and other form of women. Wasn't no Instagram models and all that. But see, you even had like, since we got paparazzi in modern times. Well, you got pro. I'm assuming he had proteges and stuff, entourages. Now I'm assuming even in the Bible days, it was probably like entourages, because that I can remember, the Bible never said mention entourages, but I kind of read between the lines. I'm assuming an entourage probably would have been existed so much since the dawning of mankind. It probably went into like our decades, probably like the 80s. I think that was when they laid place a name for it. I'm assuming there was entourages back then, and we know it was groups because since the dawn of mankind, there always been groups and things like that. People that lumped with others because you wouldn't have the Pharisees and people like that. Then you got the poor people. Then you got like royalty. Then you got people from other countries. Then you have the Hebrew Israelites. Then you got like them. Then you got just being a leader. Period, man. So it's like imagine your boss at a job times probably like 100 being a king. Well, I don't know. From a Bible perspective, I think our times that probably about 1,000, 2,000. Because the boss only have to watch over like probably like at the least maybe 20 plus people. So I don't have to watch over thousands of people. So that's an ultimate kind of pressure that the average human mind couldn't handle or fathom without God. So like I say, I ain't never been a king, so I'm trying to like visualize while I'm talking to y'all. What would that be like? Have that kind of pressure, man. Because there wasn't no hide from people. When you a king, everyone know who you are. Compared to like being a regular human being, so your life is truly in the public eye. To handle them kind of elements like that, you can't. It ain't full. Especially like even if you go after the biblical history, like Roman history, things like that. Being a king ain't for the weak. You know, like I said, Solomon, he was never a ruthless king. He would be more like as they would say, level-headed kind of person. But the Bible had ruthless kings, had level-headed kings, and had kings. Like I say, Simpson had his flaw. I mean, not Simpson. Solomon had his flaws, but I ain't gonna say he was like a bad king because I don't believe God would want you to know something if he viewed him as bad. I would say he still was a human at the end of the day, even though he was had the ultimate abundant wisdom, like basically like no other. He still had the flaws. The difference in having like some kind of a superb, I say superb wisdom compared to being flawless. Because you gotta realize he's some David who had his flaws too. So I'm kind of thinking like, what would it be like being in his shoes, man? Like I say, to me personally, in that kind of situation, I would never worry about the knowledge. I think I would be more weary of people over knowledge. Because because you think a regular person had pressure working their job, you gotta see what a king job is. Any kind of form of high authority. A job you dealing with a small amount of people. King, any kind of high authority person dealing with millions of people. So like it's gonna be egos, people bumping heads with you, people support you, dealing with people with many different opinions. Then you gotta please the people to keep your kingdom intact. So you got that element of pressure. So Solomon, through his faults, he still was a great man to be able to handle it. And personality wise, now this is my personal opinion. Solomon wasn't cocky. I don't think. I think it seemed like from what I read, it seemed like it hit him to later on. Cause it seemed like from how I read it and how the Bible described him, he would have been a likable person. So I don't think they would have put him as a king if he wasn't. And I want to say he probably was like no nonsense kind of like he didn't play with being the king. Yet don't get me wrong, I ain't gonna say he never had the flaws, because y'all know that. But yet he still loved his people. And I can't say was he a spoiled brat, because I don't think the Bible went into details about that. And as far as I read, I don't think he had. I don't know. Would he have felt physical pressure carrying on the legs of King David? That's one of the things I get curious about when I think about Solomon and people like that. You know, I guess it's equivalent to like overseas. I ain't gonna say a dictator, even though dictators do it too. When you pass a legacy, because when they have a kid, well, you can use a dictator, but I don't really want to use a dictator as an example. But I say prime minister. That's the one. I think like prime minister. I know dictators they do pass their legacy down to their kids. Basically, it's called. I know they groom them, all that, teach them the ways. And prime ministers, I think they do something like that. Presidents don't really do that because we a different monarchy than other countries. They gotta go through the vote system. But just, I'm assuming David was grooming Solomon as as a kid to become the next king too. That's something like, 'cause some things about, but you gotta put two and two together, and you gotta like kind of, I guess, like not really read between the lines too, but you kind of like some things some details that leave out, so you gotta assume. But I would say like Solomon. I say Solomon is kind of like me, like in the he a man about his business, no nonsense. No, he's serious about what he want. He got the flaws. That's why I really like him, even with his flaws. I like no nonsense people. He about his business. I'm gonna be real. He know what he want in life. He know what he like in life. And the way I feel about him, my personal opinions, if he like you, he like you. He don't, you. If he don't, he don't. You know, he's not gonna like hold his tongue. That kind of stuff. And I admire kings like that, encourage and people like that. And I think Solomon, another thing I like about him, he's like a fair and balanced kind of king. Let me read his personality. So he is humble and obedient servant. He was rewarded his meekness with wise and understanding in the heart. Perhaps no other person has ever given them a greater gift of wisdom. Solomon was charged to keep the Lord's commandments. So he had to keep God's commandments and statutes for the Lord might lift his days as king. Let me read his weaknesses. Basically, he had a weakness for forbidding women. He married 700 women and had another 300 concubines. So he had 700 women, another 300 concubines. You're a better man than me, because one woman is enough. I can't have no 700. And plus, he worshiped like other deities. That was his weakness. And I'm about to read the good qualities from one of my favorite parts to read. He showed great respect and praise for God. 1 Kings 8:23-27. He claimed the promise of God. 1 Kings 8:25-26. He showed humility. 1 Kings 8:27-28. He brought a number of petitions before the Lord for the sake of the whole country. 1 Kings chapter number 8. Basically chapter 8, 31-54. I would say he's more of a Martin Luther King kind of person. I'm assuming he had to pull a Malcolm X qualities when he had to go into battle. But way I see him in a civil rights comparison, I would compare him to like Martin Luther King, more like meek and humble, down to earth. But he fought for the everyday people. He's what you would say the voice of the people. I would say that's what I like viewing man as. And that's what I like about him. In the way is, I say, from our point of view, in modern days, he would be in our timeline. I think you would kind of say he's kind of like See what who kind of comparing to. If we go by nowadays, it would be like the likes of the Nas. That's the one. Kind of like how Nas got that like street cred where he can have you beat up and stuff, but he chooses not to go that way. Solomon is like that. And I guess you could say NBA young boy for the younger generation. You know, I ain't gonna say Kanye, but Solomon kind of like a Nas type figure. He one of them people that blend in with the poor because he's very humble and meek and down to earth. If you look at Nas, you see what King Solomon is like. Nas is not a king. Well, I call him he's a king of rap, while I'm saying one of the ones. But he's more like a meek kind of person, down to earth. You know, you can look at him like kind of like Lauryn Hill kind of person. You know, Twister. If you want to have a comparison. Now, as far as physical description, don't know really know what he would look like. But if my calculations are correct, the average person, from what I heard like years ago, the average person in the Bible wasn't as tall as you think. You would have thought people in the Bible would have been like 6'5" and like that. I think if my stat is correct, they probably wouldn't be no more than 5'5" and up. Like Jesus, I don't know his exact height, how he would be, but that was a kicker, what I learned. Because I always assumed through watching TV, biblical people would probably be like real tall people. I don't remember the scholar's name, but he was talking about how like the average person in the Bible wasn't like the height you thought they would be, like 6'5" and up and stuff like that. Not to say they didn't exist, but not to say they didn't exist, but like say no, you learn something new every day. I think that was like 2015 or something. I think I was reading that like the people in the Bible weren't like these super tall people, except for the giants. To make a long story, to make it simple, sometimes Hollywood and TV can exaggerate things, including people in our history. And that was the story of Solomon. But just read the Psalms, read the whole Proverbs when you can, read the whole Psalms when you can. Pick a time, probably an hour a day. But man, it's so much knowledge and wisdom in them Psalms. I mean, in them Psalms and in Proverbs verse. You just, your mind would be blown. Now, map. Remember John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell to support the channel. If you want to build my algorithm up, view all my videos, find nitpick whatever one you want to pick. I got short videos, I got the hour-long videos. I can't do this without y'all, so keep giving me views. I'm not gonna bug you about your money. You cash out me if you want to, but most importantly, I want these views. I, I just want you to view my content and have fun off of it, like it, learn something. You know, I got so many videos. I think I got 1,000+ videos. Go pick a video, whatever weekend you want to, whatever day you want to, for your job, during your job, for your job, after your job, and just keep viewing all these videos. Keep passing it out to your friends. Share all the videos. Let everyone know about them. Then with you doing that next month, my algorithm and all that would be up. My views would be up. And then when they give me the daily thing, the monthly thing, whatever it is, monthly achievements, And I like to give y'all, thank y'all in advance for achieving my videos. Watch this video, tell it to a friend, share it with everybody. More videos to come. And watch my hip hop stuff. I'm out. Peace.